Largely, if you talk about steel consumption globally, we have South Africa 200 kgs per person annually, and 1,800 kilograms in China per person. Metric tons in Uganda, the steel production is at 500,000 annually. All companies of steel combined. In China, the production is 2.2 million per day. Production in China. The challenge we have at stake is how do we add value to most of what we produce here. And steel is not left behind. I believe my people and my friends from science and technology innovation know this. That for us to be able to add value to steel, there must be intentional conversations around what affects value addition in a number of sectors, including steel. So we have 583 million metric tons of iron ore in Kabale, which are largely not, these are deposits really. But you see, when you talk about challenges, it's not a matter of saying we have iron ore in Kabale. What has government, or what are we doing to attract the world to come and invest in value addition of iron ore to become steel? Because there's a process. And probably we have also one of the best iron ore in Kabale. So what we have done as Uganda Bati is to partner with serious innovators and investors like Inspire Group. What you see there, up there, which is a dream that most of people are talking about, 90% or 100%, Nelson, if I'm right, has been supplied, no, has been designed, detailed, manufactured, supplied, installed, and handed over by Uganda Bati. What you see, I will repeat this, probably you didn't understand it. Has been designed, detailed, manufactured, installed on that hill, and handed over by Uganda Bati. Our dream is to support industrialization in this country. However, we have to work with the government. I will tell you, ALAF, which is our sister company in Tanzania, has been given an order from the government of Tanzania to supply 64 industrial parks, which will be holding centers for agricultural produce from the 64 regions. In those regions, we are installing the system that we have just supplied Nelson here and the Inspire Group, which is self-built. But also, we are also installing what we call self-cool. Self-cool, these are cladded refrigerators that keep our produce fresh before it is supplied or added value on to be exported somewhere else. So we have capacity. So how does government then partner with a local investor like Uganda Bati for a building system like self-build that we have supplied here, or self-cool that we are supplying in Tanzania? Because without supporting the local investor like Uganda Bati, then I would be curtailed to continue investing in value addition of iron ore, isn't it? So my plea and prayer is the government authorities or players that are in this place to know that we already built capacity to support government and also private sector innovators. A school, I'll give you an example, Elijah, and the participants here. A school or a classroom that was being built probably by brick and mortar, cement and bricks, that would take 12 months to build a classroom of around 75 pupils. Now, with the building system of self-build, which we are showcasing in the tent there, it will take you 3 weeks to put it up. 3 weeks to put a classroom that is designed, innovated, manufactured by Uganda Bati. It will take you 3 weeks. Name it, from health centers to schools to churches. I think, my Lord Bishop, you know a number of churches Uganda Bati has supported with a new innovation of lock, but also ultraspan. Ultraspan is a replacement of the timber. You know, when you build a house, before you put roofing, you put timber. Now, because of the sustainable innovations we are talking about, Elijah, is that we have innovated and researched a product called ultraspan. That instead of putting timber, which is heavy, but also not long-lasting like steel, we have innovated a product called ultraspan. That before you build your roofing sheets, you put steel instead, a light gauge steel product that allows you, one, to have less weight on your house, but also long-lasting. And most churches, I think if you enter church, you have seen they're using the same. It keeps your house cooler, but also cost-effective than using timber, but which is also degrading our environment. So that and more is what we have done to join the industrialization agenda to make sure that we support innovators and industrialists in Uganda and across the border.
Thank you, Ian, for that response. You really did respond extensively. I will move to the next question, which is related to the economic development. Just to remind you, I'm also an economist, although I did Indian economics. The question is particularly on employment. Employment is a key indicator to national economic performance. Uganda Bati has created many jobs, with a significant fraction earmarked to expatriates for lack of scientific local human capital to stimulate industrialization. What interventions have you undertaken or your entity has undertaken to avert this?
Thank you very much, Elijah. Now, you can't speak industrialization without human capital. I think the biggest challenge that as industrialists, and I think Nelson and others, Dr. Magola here can talk about it, is having skilled labor on the market that is readily available. Research has shown, Elijah, that in manufacturing alone, we have a shortage of over 30,000 skilled labor. But also, the labor that goes out of our tertiary institutions, we can only use, or what is relevant to us as manufacturers is only 12%. What's relevant out of the skills that go out. What we have done as Uganda Bati, and I hope that also other industrialists can really partner with us, is that we have established the Safari Uganda Bati Foundation in Tororo, which is a vocational institute. Its main purpose really is to train and skill Ugandans that can feed into our factory, but also some of our industrial innovations that we are doing. We have as well heavily invested in research and development. Why? Because the new product, for example, of lifestyle, I don't know how many of you have heard of a lifestyle product, which is the iron sheet that is a replacement of Decra. We always used to know Decra as the categura, which is made of the profile of like the clay tile. Now, largely what produces that product of ours of lifestyle is robotic technology. It means that if that robot is down or it fails, I may have to have a Chinese or a Lebanese from wherever they are coming from who have offered that technology to come and probably fix the robot. Our interest and our prayer is, how do we make sure that we build that skill here? Because then it will affect industrialization. If I'm to wait for a Chinese, but also it will be very high on Nelson's end. If the machine, the cost will be very high if the machine that is packaging coffee needs an external expatriate to come and fix. How are we informing our education system, for example, on making sure that we have these skills and training in our education system here to inform the manufacturing sector? But also, largely, Elijah, as Uganda Bati, and that's why I'm here, the company is deliberate and intentional in making sure that they hand over the mantle to the local expatriates. I think if I'm to mention, and if I'm not mistaken, and I can even mention names, largely Uganda is being led, operationalized by Ugandans. Let's clap for that. Ugandans. I can mention Apuva. Is Apuva here? Apuva is there. Bavin and Kopin. Those are the only 3 expatriates we have in Uganda. Meaning 99% of the expatriates are Ugandans. You don't appreciate that? You need to appreciate that. Why? Because the deliberate effort of the shareholder is to make sure that this is a Ugandan-led business. And this is what we encourage even the other industrialists to focus on, building skilling of the Ugandan, but also to partner with government to make sure that they empower vocational institutions to produce human capital or to give us human capital that is more relevant to our sector. And I want to assure you, Elijah and the team here, that we are on this journey together as SAFAL and Uganda Bati, and our interest to empower young people to make sure that they have the skills and we can no longer employ any expatriate to come here and do what we can do better.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. If you left Ian to continue submitting, you could do that for the whole day based on his background. Thank you very much, Mr. Ian Romanika, who is the Corporate Affairs Manager at Uganda Bati. I'll invite our last panelist to give his submissions, and that's Mr. Amos Tindiewa. He's the Managing Director at Fresh Cuts. Mr. Amos Tindiewa, the question that is going to come to you as an entrepreneur, but also an innovator, is particularly a light but a bit tricky one, and it's going to be on how you gauge the landscape in terms of investment attraction in the innovation sector and the key areas, because investment and attraction of investment is one that is affected by quite a number of aspects. How do you gauge it, and what beta alternatives would you propose for the innovation spectrum in Uganda, but Africa as a whole, to attract more foreign direct investment?
Thank you so much, the moderator. Once again, I'm called Tindiewa Amos. I'm the CEO, Fresh Cuts Uganda, Stroke Quality Cuts. We're involved in value addition in the meat industry. When you eat a sausage today, you know it is from Fresh Cuts Uganda. And we are happy to be part of this important forum. First of all, before I make my remarks, I would like to first thank His Excellency the President of Uganda for carrying the appreciation that value addition is very important and the private sector is very important. I think he has been a champion of this. You have heard from Dr. Mathias Magora talking about His Excellency the President. You will hear Dr. Nelson Tugume speaking about this. I want to appreciate Dr. Nelson Tugume today for breaking the barriers and for making the public sector listen to the private sector. Nelson is no longer Mr. Nelson, he's Dr. Tugume Nelson. I would like to request all of you to address him by that title. The second issue, I would like to appreciate the Uganda Revenue Authority. Uganda Revenue Authority under Commissioner General Musinguzi has been one of the most friendly institutions before the private sector. I would like to request the URA person to extend that appreciation to Mr. Musinguzi, the Commissioner General, and the team for creating one of the best environment for tax engagement today. So I think for the last 5 years, URA has been one of the best institutions we have engaged. The other issue, I would like to extend appreciation to government, and specifically to thank the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Science and Technology. These are one of the best ministries we have across the government today. And I'm happy to mention that STI is one of the champions of this innovation. And STI, if you go to STI, you think you are in the private company, not a public sector institution. The issues that have been presented to me is how do we attract the private sector? How do we attract more investment into our economy? And this one takes us to the core bottlenecks of innovation and industrialization in Uganda. The first I would like to mention is ideological disorientation. I think the President of Uganda has talked about this several times. Public perception on investment hasn't been very positive over the years. There is negative agenda driven by external forces, which we don't know. Some of them we know, others we don't know. And they work within our policy environment to fight our efforts towards innovation, industrialization, and access to the market. And it's continuing to even blind our own entrepreneurs. I'll take an example of Inspire Coffee here. Inspire would like to export value-added coffee, but there are Ugandans who are exporting raw coffee, and they are presenting themselves as main competitors of Inspire Africa, which is championing the export of value-added coffee. So I call this ideological disorientation, and we must work towards encouraging our entrepreneurs to have positive minds towards innovation and export. The other issue of attracting investment is about the cost of finance. My friend Creva from Equity Bank talked about many facilities the bank provides. But I would like to emphasize this. The 10%, whether it is in UDB, that is very, very high for a businessman. 15 or 19% from Equity Bank, that is unreachable, that is finance that cannot accelerate innovation and industrialization. We are competing globally with countries that are giving finance at 1.8% annually. But in Uganda, we're talking about 19%. We are talking about 17% as prime lending rates. This is not possible. And I'm very sure banks are flooded with money not being utilized because of this high interest rates. The other issue about access to capital is about collateralization of financing. Collateralization is old-fashioned banking. I'm not a banking expert, but if you must finance me and ask me a land title, definitely, if I don't have a land title, I will not access your money. But if you take examples of countries in Europe where there is no land at individual level, but financing is very high, how do they finance entrepreneurs? Looking for land titles, buildings, is old-fashioned banking. You must innovate through insurance, cover, and other forms of innovative financing. The other issue is about unfavorable tax regime. Our friend from URA, I know URA is not a policy maker, it's an implementer, but the recommendation can come from you. VAT of 18% cannot accelerate innovation. It cannot facilitate industrialization. Our neighbor countries are talking about 15 or 14 or 16, but we are stuck with 18%. His Excellency the President today said that 18% is too high for the private sector. And he was referring to the starch segment, where I think my friend Magora is trying to invest. 18% of VAT is very, very expensive for the private sector. And secondly, we must also look at special tax incentives for those who are involved in innovation. We are talking about creating a job, creating employment through value addition. But if the payee rate is very high, I will not create more jobs because the burden of taxation is very high. I will aim to reduce the number of employees I have because the payee burden is very high. So we must look at issues of tax holidays for those who are innovating. Inspire Coffee here, which is innovating in coffee, should get at least 5 years of tax holiday or so. So if you begin to tax Inspire next year, then you are going to kill Inspire. I can tell you that we need that kind of concession.
Mr. Amos, sorry to cut you short.
Yes.
But still on the same subject as you wind up, because our time is fast spent. Could you speak into tax holidays in terms of foreign investors vis-a-vis local investors?
I am aware Ugandans have been saying incentives go to foreign investors, but there is also incentives for the domestic investors. What we need is access to information. There is low access to information, and we need to get this information. But before I close my remarks, I want to talk about prioritization of funding for private sector. Today in Uganda, when government funds the private sector, it becomes a hot potato, which is not right. Globally, governments are financing private sector. And I want to request Honorable Kamatenet to carry this message to the legislators that we should fund as more private sector as possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Tindewa, your closing remarks, because we're coming to the closure of this discussion.
My closing point will be about the issue of red tape and corruption in the banking industry. When we talk about corruption, we think it is in the public sector, but there is a big corruption within the banking sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Amos Tindewa. We shall move at the extreme end. Mr. Ian Romanika, your parting shots as we come to the end of this discussion.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Tugumi and your team, thank you for the opportunity to partner with you on this particular investment. Now, my parting shot, Elijah, is that there's a lot of potential in the steel sector, a lot of potential in other sectors as well in terms of value addition. However, government has a job to do in terms of, as we provide industrial infrastructure, government has a job to make sure that there is infrastructure in terms of logistics. Largely, globally, for a steel company to add value to iron ore, which is in Kabale now, of 583 million metric tons, it should be in a proximity of 10 kilometers. Now, I have to drive 600 kilometers to Kabale, where iron ore is, to get it out of the ground. So as we preach the gospel of not dig and ship, and preach the gospel of mine and make, I think government needs to have a conversation on how do we make sure that we welcome the world to find a heavily capitalized investment environment where I can gladly invest, and there is infrastructure that will support the industrial growth in Uganda.
I think that's the conversation government is having right now with various stakeholders. Mr. Magola, Dr. Magola, you could give your last shots. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elijah. For me, the thing is simple. Innovation. Without it, we are not going to attract investments in this continent. So we need really to look at that. I'll give you only 2 examples. Starbucks generated $34 billion from coffee. 34 billion, but they don't own a single tree. So what my brother is doing is going really to uplift all that. So without innovation, we are wasting time.
Thank you, Mr. Magola. Lastly, our host, the Honorable Woman Member of Parliament in Tungamo District.
Thank you so much, Elijah, once again. As we conclude, as we sit in this tent or the room, I call upon everyone, our partners, our policy makers, strategic thinkers, private sector, that we should not sit here and merely talk. We should look for ways, with strategies on how to make Africa's ambition into action. We thank you so much. We pray that we continue partnering, we continue working together to make Uganda a better country and Africa the best continent on the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we come to the closure of a very fruitful conversation that we did have this afternoon. My name is Elijah Tuliagumanawe again, and I will encourage you to pay closer attention to government strategies and government's approach to economic development is the ATMs. I don't know how many of you are conversant with what the ATMs stand for, but the S at the end is science, technology, and innovation. If you can read on our shirts, we have a slogan, and it is making Uganda the best. And what makes us really distinctive from majority of government agencies is we serve with brutal integrity. I am not going to keep you here longer because I might stimulate your ulcers. It's way long past lunchtime, but I also send my greetings from the Honorable Minister, under which the Science, Technology and Innovation Secretariat is run. She's away and attending to other national duties, but gladly the event is going on fruitfully, and she does send you greetings. Well, at this particular juncture, I will not open up the discussions in the interest of time. You'll allow me to close the conversations today. Once again, I thank my panelists this afternoon that did play a very critical role in addressing some of the very pertinent issues and key issues on this afternoon's topic, which was bottlenecks to Africa's innovation, industrialization, and value addition journey. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Have a nice lunch.
Thank you, Elijah, and thanks to our panelists. You may now take your seats. Thank you. It's lunchtime. After lunch, we'll be back here for the closing session, and the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who's the chief guest, will have arrived, and we'll do the closing ceremony just after lunch. May you enjoy your lunch. May you enjoy the breeze of Untungamo, Rwashamire. May you enjoy the breeze of the Africa Coffee Park. Lunch is just on my left, right there, which is your right if you're seated facing this side. And this, listening closely, this is how we're going to conduct lunch, because there are coupons you need to receive before you move to the tent where the lunch is. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for your patience. I know we're past lunch. My name is Reginald, and I'm going to oversee this happy hour.
So apologies. In recognition to my panelists, I apologize. It skipped my mind. We're supposed to take a group photo with the Undersecretary for Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Tugume, as well on stage. This is on record to show that there was really turn up and show face for a second panel. Thank you. You can come back on stage if it's not inconveniencing to take that one group photo, and Dr. Cosmos as well is asked to be party to that group photo.